he's done more in 1 year than anybody else has done in their lifetime. Oh my.
Well, we're back to winter.
Back to winter again, yep.
But,
Be a short one this time though.
yep. And daffodils are already coming up.
Yeah.
So you can't fool them.
Yeah.
All right, welcome to First Universalist New Madison on this back to winter day for a short time anyway. Hopefully nobody had too much trouble getting through. The snow was just a skiff, and it's only like 25, 26 degrees, which is balmy compared to what it was a couple weeks ago. Do we have any announcements?
Oh, hockey game update. They were tied 1-1 at the end of 2 periods.
Whose hockey game?
The U.S. and Canada.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That was this morning, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What would you say?
The hockey.
1-1 at the end of 2 periods.
So, sudden death, I
That's
guess.
exciting.
Yeah, that'd be something, because American hockey hasn't won a gold since the 80s. Has it? It's been that long. Only I have a new affinity for Canada with standing up to the bullies type thing. So, okay, prelude, foggy day. Marcellus, well, actually, we're at Ash Wednesday. How many? Well, that Ash Wednesday was last Wednesday. How many of you pay attention to Lent? Not many Protestants do. I mean, we kind of have a passing affinity for it. But as I was looking into Lent, actually, how I got started on this is there was a bunch of old dried up leaves in the kitchen on stems. And I'm thinking, what is that for? And it turns out Tara and the Church of the Brethren, which they do follow Lent on a kind of a basic deal. For Ash Wednesday, she was preparing ashes to use for the procedure, for the ceremonial procedure. You know how they get the ashes? They grind up the palm leaves from the year before, which I had never, I've been around a minister for, I don't know, well, I've been around a minister for 46 years, but she hasn't been a minister that long. I never knew she's home with a quarter and pestle, grinding up palm leaves and putting olive oil in it to put on people's foreheads. So that kind of got me started on Wednesday and Lent, so that's kind of where we ended up. We're going to have a brief overview of Ash Wednesday, Lent, and most people are aware of it because of Mardi Gras, which is Shrove Tuesday, which is the day before. Ash Wednesday is when Lent starts. Shrove Tuesday is the Tuesday before Lent, which what do you do before you have to deprive yourselves of the things that you like for life? You have a big blowout and do all the things that you are going to be able to do for 40 days and 40 nights. So we'll hit a little bit of all of this as we go along.
Always try to find a good fish sandwich or fries.
We'll talk about that too. Part of Lent is giving up something, and every religion, we're kind of getting into the message already, but a peculiar year because there's a confluence of religious events that happened this year, like once in 200 or 300 years. We have Lent for the Christians. Ramadan for the Muslims starts also on Wednesday, which that's very unusual. And the third oddity is the lunar year for the Chinese starts Tuesday. And this is the year of the fiery horse, which I got kind of a kick out of. So we're going to look at a little bit of each one of these as we go along. And the point to keep in mind is, what is it about the human psyche that drives us to do these memorial, these celebratory, or even thoughtful, maybe contemplative things for our holidays? Because it goes across from one religion to another religion, actually into even philosophy. So that's kind of what we're going to look at. All right, our chalice lighting. We live inside paradox. Humans generally don't like to admit it. We much prefer tidy, stable, comprehensible, logical ways of getting through the day. But paradox is woven into the fabric of this particular universe we inhabit. Light is both a particle and a wave. Imaginary numbers describe the math of physical phenomena. Love and grief are inextricably linked, as are rage and sorrow. Suffering and compassion, life and death, time itself is both linear and cyclical. Each person's life traces a single arc, yet patterns emerge and reemerge. Fear always seems to return. Goodness knows terror finds its way back into the news. We always seem in need of help to roll back big stones that block our way, yet we also come back to the Alleluia, even if its absence has gone on far longer than the 40 days of Lent. We raise each other's spirits when our sacred places seem empty. We anoint each other. We engage in a demanding faith that asks us to love the next world into being today. We are joyful, though we have considered all the facts. We practice resurrection. It's Easter again, my friends, and you are surrounded by a multitude who wish you well. Words by Linda Susan Ulrich. Our opening hymn is 115. God of grace, God of glory.
Praise
glory on thy people for thy power. Crown thine ancient church's story. Bring its budding glorious flower. Grant us wisdom, grant us courage for the facing of this hour. All right, our affirmation, waiting to grow again. Spirit of life, spirit of being, source of being, open our hearts and minds to all that is possible in this season of liminality. You remember liminality? We talked about that a few weeks ago. This in-between season, sometimes winter, sometimes nearly spring, not quite one nor the other. Against a white background, several flower bulbs and one upright bulb with shoots of green rising from the top. I have your basic daffodils are starting to come up. Beneath a crust of earth, seeds and bulbs lay in store. Some, crocus and daffodil, have dared to pierce the surface, braving to become the next iteration of self, a new bloom. On the forsythia and magnolia branches, petals curl into themselves, swelling into uncertain buds, waiting for the optimal conditions of light and warmth and rain to unfold into their potential for beauty and delight. On the bare branches of maple, oak, and elm, tiny leaves are invisibly budding, readying themselves for their debut, a new wardrobe for a new season. We too are waiting to grow again. Like perennial plants and deciduous trees, we don't grow along a singular trajectory from infancy through childhood to the full bloom of adulthood and the wider unfolding of elder years. Rather, we grow anew year upon year in seasons and cycles. In the cold and dark of winters, real and metaphorical, we hunker down, seek shelter and stillness, conserve energy, so that the new vitality can germinate. In this liminal season, we are waiting for signs of longer light, lasting warmth, and quenching rains, waiting to grow again anew. What new growth is budding in you, readying itself to make its debut, to adorn the world with new beauty and delight? Can you hear it singing? Words by Jennifer Johnson. And when I read that, I think of the marches in Minnesota, winter, cold, bundled up, and still trying to plan for a spring they hope will appear. In fact, that we all hope will appear. All right, joys and concerns.
In the El Dorado news, I read that Dee Dee Wisman is getting ready to come back to church there, and that was very encouraging. If you recall, Dee Dee had a pretty bad bicycle accident and hasn't been in church for several months now.
Yeah.
And so it looks like she's feeling better and hopefully on the road to recovery, and we want to wish Dee Dee the best.
Yes, I did not realize, because last time we had the combined service they talked about, and I didn't realize her injuries were that severe that she was not able to move for so many months. Okay, for Dee Dee. And for our absent members, lots of friends and colleagues that we have not seen. Hopefully everyone is doing well. Haven't heard really much from anybody individually.
We want to make sure to remember Lou as he recovers from his recent surgery.
Yes.
Lou Riverbank.
Yep. And we need to get together and go over and see Chaz and Paula some Sunday.
Wait till spring.
When it's a little bit warmer, together in their garage, we'll take donuts and coffee, whatever they want. We need to let them know ahead of time to make sure with Paula that everything is fine to do that. But we need to support them with the problems that they're having, as we need to support everybody with their problems. I still have, put my one family we may have to evict because I just can't get them to pay their rent, pay their electric bill. I really don't like doing that, but I'm kind of running out of options. And the other family, the retired disabled couple, I think I told you about them. I've called 4 senior living places. I put in applications in 2 of them. I'm going next week to put another couple applications in. They need subsidized housing. They're both older, they're both disabled, they're both on Social Security, and they're not paying their rent. And I'm not subsidizing them either. But I can't just put them out on the street, so we're going to find a place, a senior living facility, Green Manor or someplace in Greenville, hopefully to get them in. So a candle for success in that endeavor, to find them a nice place to live with subsidized payments. As far as peace in the world, it's still pretty far away. More and more horror stories of Israel. If you pay attention to the news, a 19-year-old Palestinian American killed by the settlers. Basically, the settlers are just attacking Palestinian villages, taking their ground, killing their livestock, killing their sheep and their goats, uprooting their olive trees. The state of Israel has now sanctioned another, I forget what the hundreds of thousands or how many thousands of settlers are allowed to settle in the West Bank. They have basically said they are going to push all the Palestinians out of the West Bank and take it over for Israel, whether it's legal or not, and it's not legal. That basically is the definition of apartheid. So we'll have to see. They have the power and the ability to do it now, but I think in the same way that South Africa pushed apartheid for years and years and years, the weight of justice in the world, I think, will come to bear in the future. It may be a long future, but I can't see the world allowing that to happen. I can't see the nations of the world allowing that to happen. I'm afraid that Israel is going to become a pariah. As many laws as they pass prohibiting disrespect, there's a movement in the United States to shun Israeli companies, Israeli finances, and they're making laws. The government is making laws that you're not allowed to do that. But the weight of justice in the long run will prevail. We'll just have to see how that works. Russia and Ukraine, the same thing. The United States is arbitrating between, but it seems that the United States is asking Ukraine to make all the sacrifices and giving Russia everything they want. A curious state of affairs that we find ourselves in, hopefully which will right itself in the long run. All we can do is hope on that. And so what's this? Anything else? I guess I forgot to say something about Minnesota. The anti-ICE programs go on. People are unified. The resistance is peaceful. I love the singing, and there are many examples of the singing protest, peaceful singing protest. I'll bring you a few more of those as we go along. And I think we're going to try and see on our next protest in Greenville if we can get a portable speaker to play some of those songs at the Greenville Circle. So we'll see how that works. All right, one more candle for those joys and concerns that you might have or anyone else might have that they're not able to voice or even let anybody else know about. If there's anything we can help with, please do let us know. All right, our children's story. What is Lent?
Unless you're a Roman Catholic or Eastern Orthodox Christian, the term Lent might be somewhat unfamiliar to you. Lent is an annual period of spiritual preparation that spans the 40 days, not counting Sundays, which precede Easter, the most important Christian holiday. During the 6 weeks of Lent, Christians commonly pray, fast, engage in self-examination, and seek to improve their devotion to God. In the New Testament, Jesus is said to have spent 40 days in the wilderness, praying, fasting, and battling the temptations of the devil. During Lent, Christians seek to mirror Jesus' journey by trying to renew themselves spiritually through acts of self-denial. In some denominations of Christianity, it is common to give up one specific thing for Lent, something you really enjoy, like dessert, alcohol, or some other favorite food. Natural giving up Brussels sprouts would count. In Eastern Orthodox tradition, practitioners typically engage in a more rigorous Lenten fast, often giving up entire food groups, like all meat or all dairy products, for 6 weeks. Lent has been part of Christian practice for many centuries. It was first institutionalized in the 4th century, and in the 6th century it was set to begin on Ash Wednesday, the day on which some Christians go to church to have the priest mark their foreheads with ashes as a symbol of their repentance. The Lenten season concludes with Holy Week, the most sacred week leading up to Easter. Though some Christians do not engage in Lent as a special season of preparation, nearly all Christian denominations celebrate Easter as the culmination of the gospel message.
Okay, that's a brief overview. Here is just one of the many, many pictures of Mardi Gras in New Orleans, a famous occasion, but there are Mardi Gras type parades, Shrove Tuesday parades. Actually, I found many of them all over Europe. I showed you a picture a couple weeks ago of the little monsters that they have to scare the kids for that holiday. They have a pretty practiced thing of making puppets and having parades all over the world. So Ash Wednesday marks the first day of Lent. That's 40 days of fasting and penitence that culminates in Easter Sunday. We went through the thing about how the ashes are ground up and turned into a paste that's applied to the forehead. Primarily that has been done by Catholics, but many of the Protestant religions also do that. And if you were out and about, I saw quite a few people on that Wednesday. We had the Democratic meeting at Shawnee Prairie. Actually, it was a Democratic and Independent Women's meeting, and we had Christopher Gibbs as a speaker. He's the head of the rural Democratic group in the state of Ohio, and also he is the Democratic Party chair. I think it's in Shelby County. Pretty good speaker, and I'll be bringing you some of the information that he had as we go along. But there were quite a few ladies there, quite a few gentlemen and ladies there who had the ashes on their forehead, which is, if people aren't aware of it, it looks pretty funny. If you see somebody walking around with smudges of ash on their forehead, that is kind of the point of Ash Wednesday. History has a long tradition when people are in pain or suffering and want to show sympathy to other people. What do? They traditionally wore sackcloth. You know what sackcloth is? Sackcloth is basically like burlap. And now, nobody now knows even what burlap is. The people our age, we know what burlap is because we used to have burlap bags that fit. And people used to wear that for clothes. You know how rough, and you remember how rough burlap is? It is one of the roughest fabrics that you can find. That's why rich people wore silk, because silk was the smoothest and felt so good on your skin. The poor people wore woven like wool, which is still kind of scratchy, or cotton, which is not too bad. But burlap is like a cotton fiber that is the roughest fiber you can get. So it's worn for penance. The other thing they would do would be, they used to sprinkle ashes on their head. And you know how scratchy and uncomfortable it would be to have wood ash or coal ash sprinkled. We've basically refined it to put the ashes on your forehead where they don't cause a problem and you can wash them off. In the original 2,000 years ago Catholic Church, they sprinkled ashes on people's heads, which meant that was something, and of course they didn't take a lot of baths and a lot of showers and comb their hair a lot either, so that was truly a mark of suffering that they felt. They have ashes sprinkled on them. They were as clean as the modern era, transformed into a smudge of ashes on the forehead, which could easily be cleaned off. So where did Lent come from? In the period before the resurrection of Christ, where Christians concentrate on the 3 pillars of Lent, are prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, or tending to the poor. And how did Lent get to be for 40 days? 40 days in the Bible has quite a history. If you go back, and we'll go through a few of them here. At Nicaea, the council settled on the 40-day fast period for Lent because it has roots in the Bible. It rained for 40 days and 40 nights when Noah and his entourage went into the ark, Genesis 7, verse 4. Moses sits atop Mount Sinai receiving instructions from God for 40 days, Exodus 24, verse 18. Elijah walked 40 days and 40 nights to the mountain of God, where he flees Jezebel's wrath, 1 Kings 19, verse 8. 40 days of Lent, however, are primarily identified with the time Christ spent in the desert, fasting, praying, and being tempted by the devil. One of the quotes is Matthew 4, chapter 1, verse 11. So, how did it get to be February 18th, 2026? And what is Ash Wednesday? Fasting and abstinence. Penitence. What is penitence? Penitence, repentance, contrition, compunction, remorse mean regret for sin or wrongdoing. Penitence implies sad and humble realization of and regret for one's misdeeds. See the connection to penitentiary? Penitentiary was something that occurred as a solution for crime that occurred to the people of the late 1800s, 1900s, and 20th century. It was a place where people went to do penance for their crimes and learn a new way of living, a new way of behaving, a better way of behaving. Did it always work? Did it ever work? I'm sure it's worked sometimes. I was just reading the letter from the Good Samaritan house. John, who has since passed away, I think since that letter was written, or maybe not, because the picture is his wife is there. But he has now, that group, Good Samaritan House, has 21 houses in the Dayton area and a $2 million budget and over 10 employees. And what they do is they take people who are released from prison, give them a place to live, help them with education and jobs. It is a worthy cause, and they are helping lots of people. The motivation, I know John, and John was a pastor in Pleasant Hill when my wife was a pastor in Pleasant Hill, so we used to have the meetings of all the denominations at Pleasant Hill, and it was kind of an interesting situation. All right, we're getting off on the side here. Catholics receive ashes on their foreheads as a sign of repentance and mortality. Ash Wednesday, and this is an important note for the Catholics, it is not a holy day of obligation. Has anybody ever heard of a holy day of obligation? That was completely new to me. That is a day when the church says you have to go to church, and the Catholic Church has actual days listed that are holy days of obligation. So all Sundays are obligatory for the faithful to participate in the Mass, so you're supposed to go every Sunday. But the other days, Thursday, January 1st, the Solemnity of Mary, Mother of God. Thursday, May 14th, the Ascension of Jesus. Saturday, August 15th, the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin. Sunday, November 1st, All Saints' Day. Tuesday, December 8th, the Immaculate Conception of the Blessed Virgin Mary. And Friday, December 25th, Christmas. Those are days when Catholics are mandated to go to Mass, an extra day besides the Sunday, which I really have no history and no knowledge of the Catholic Church. I found that really interesting. So, what are the Sundays of Lent? The 22nd of February, March 1st, March 8th, March 15th, March 22nd, and March 29th. The Gospel readings on these Sundays focus on themes like repentance, mercy, and healing. We encounter Christ as a shepherd, a healer, a redeemer, and a friend. On the first Sunday of Lent, you might hear about the temptation of Christ in the desert. You're not going to hear about that today. On the second Sunday of Lent, the story of Christ's transfiguration on Mount Tabor is read at Mass. We might look into that unless somebody has a suggestion for next Sunday. For the third and fifth Sundays of Lent, the Gospel readings vary according to a 3-year liturgical cycle. The Catholic Church, and actually every church, has a liturgy, and the national church, even the Church of the Brethren, and I don't know if the UUs, I haven't really looked into that, They have suggestions for the liturgy for the service for every Sunday of the year. Comes out at the beginning of the year, so ministers know what the scriptures are to preach on and what the idea, what the general consensus is to preach on, put out by the denomination. You don't have to do that, but it's suggested. It makes it easier because they have a little program to follow. On the third Sunday of Lent, the gospel is Christ's conversion or conversation with the Samaritan woman at the well. On the fourth Sunday, we hear the story of the healing of the man born blind. On the fifth Sunday, the gospel is Christ raising Lazarus from the dead. On Palm Sunday, the sixth and last Sunday of Lent, we receive blessed palms at Mass, hear about Christ's triumphant entry into Jerusalem on a donkey in the days before his passion. And on that day, we will have, Derek will be here, so it'll be interesting to see what his topic is. We've talked in the past about Christ's procession into Jerusalem on the donkey, where the donkey came from, the significance of a donkey, and leading a procession versus from the other end of town, there was a Roman general coming into town on a white stallion with minions, troops in full armor marching down the street. The comparison and the contrast between Christ on a donkey and a general on a white stallion is the whole point of the Christian religion, in my understanding. And lastly, calendar coordination 2026, the confluence of religion, which rarely occurs, the Chinese New Year, the year of the fire horse, Ramadan for the Muslims. What strikes me about these observances is how they reorient attention and life rhythms. During Ramadan, Muslims worldwide rise before dawn, wait for sunset. Their days are shaped by the discipline of fasting and the sweetness of breaking bread when the light fades. They do not eat or drink all day long for 40 days, Muslims, observant Muslims. The Baba family, if you're familiar with Baba's repair shop, Auto Fix-It in Greenville, I was selling them, or have sold them a house, and I would stop in every month to get payments from them, and they would also do repairs on the car. They are observant Muslims. Their daughter is 7 or 8, so we were talking about that. They do not start fasting until age 12. I thought it was 16, but she said it's 12. So at age 12, Muslim children also abstain from eating or drinking from daylight till dark. If you can imagine, all day long, nothing to eat, nothing to drink. If you've seen pictures in the news in Palestine, long tables down the middle of the street at dark, at dusk, because no one has food. I don't know who it is supplying the food, but there's food for everyone at these tables, and they are trying to celebrate their holiday of Ramadan in the midst of a war, basically. There are still, I think there were like 60 people killed in the last week by the Israelis. Constantly the excuse is that Hamas is causing trouble, and that's the reason they're killing innocent children and women and civilians, supposedly to get the Hamas members, but they never seem to be able to identify any Hamas members. So even during this trial and tribulation, they are celebrating their holiday of Ramadan. During the Lunar New Year celebrations, this is in China, families gather for reunion dinners that honor ancestors and welcome fresh beginnings. Their homes filled with foods that carry symbolic meanings, prosperity, gratitude, and togetherness. Lent is a season of hopeful waiting, preceded by celebrations of life and prosperity. That's Mardi Gras. The common themes for all these holidays is renewal and reflection, evidently an inner human drive to understand the universe we occupy. And for oddballs, we can't forget St. Patrick's Day is a Catholic holiday right in the middle of Lent. For good Catholics of Ireland, and also for an oddball is Purim for the Jews. Can't forget the Jews. They have a holiday right in the middle of Lent as well for reflection and celebration. And so Lent and Ramadan are both about giving up and sacrificing, giving up favorite foods for the Muslims, giving up eating and drinking during the daylight hours for Ramadan. And for Catholics, there is a one-day break where all caution goes to the winds. St. Patrick's Day, where Catholics give up one thing, and you remember before it mentioned they could give up drinking was one of the things they could give up for Lent, which for a Catholic Irish person was probably a difficulty. But they can also give up favorite foods or anything else. But they have St. Patrick's Day, where everything where drinking and feasting are allowed and encouraged. So the common theme of all religions is what? Faith, sacrifice, willingness to undergo hardship, even pain in the name of your faith. The Muslims don't eat anything or drink anything from daylight to dark. The Christians give up a favorite food. Actually, fasting is part of it. Giving up meat for the entire 40 days was something. Then it became giving up meat just on Friday. So fish became, and you still see that now. Arby's says they now have a big fish sandwich that's on sale on Fridays. These techniques or these traditions, I think, are kind of slowly dying out. You don't hear that much, near as much. But I don't know any devout Catholic families, so I couldn't tell you that exactly. But that people are being trained from the time they are 12 years old or younger, that there is something important about giving up something for your religion. The thought has kind of occurred to me is this deprivation training for the ultimate of martyrdom? Think about the early Christians when we're facing the lions in the Colosseum. If every year from little on up you learn to give up something you like, something you need for your faith, when the Romans take you to the Colosseum, will you be ready to face the lions? If you have been trained that giving up something for your faith is important from the time you're a small child, are religions consciously or subconsciously training their adherents to want to be able to give up, to willingly give up something? And to start with, it's something simple like eating or drinking, or a favorite food, or a favorite drink, or a favorite activity. You're giving that up for Lent, but as you grow older, does the importance for that giving up, does that grow and grow and grow? And are there some people who are trained by doing that to be able to give up the ultimate sacrifice, which is their life as they grow along? I don't know, it's a thought that occurred to me as someone who tries to think about what is going on and what we're being trained to do. That is basically what propaganda is all about. We're seeing that now in our educational system, where we're not allowed to say anything bad about the United States. Everything has to be positive. If you noticed in the news, the judge has changed the display at the African American Museum in Washington, D.C. They actually took down all the placards that talked about George Washington keeping slaves in Washington, D.C. when he was president. And did you know the tradition or the laws in Washington at the time Washington was there, General Washington was there, did not allow you to keep slaves for longer than 180 days, or they would become free people. So what did the Washington family do? At 179 days, all the slaves in Washington went back to Virginia, to the mansion, and new slaves were brought in. They could not be free. That was on the placards, and the judge has ordered those placards to be restored. So we are still in a combination, in a struggle of light versus dark, I guess you would call it, to see whether truth in the American way, as Superman would say, prevail, or whether we're going to become subsumed by the darkness that is basically sweeping over the nation. Okay, questions, comments? All right. I don't know what we're going to do next week. We may go ahead and follow through on some of these Lent ideas. The more I looked at it, the more interesting I found it. So we'll see what happens with that. I didn't really give you any of my things. Here's your 40 days of Lent. Prayer, fasting, works of love. Almsgiving is also mentioned. Taking care of the stranger, taking care of the poor. Something that people who are Christians are supposed to consider. This is the Chinese Lunar New Year, Year of the Fire Horse. And I haven't really looked into that very much, but I found that pretty interesting. And that will be our last slide too. I didn't have to get another one. And Ramadan is the one of the Muslim religion. 40 days and 40 nights, and sincerely done all the way through. Well, this is the three together. Ramadan, the Chinese New Year of 2026, and Shrove Tuesday, which we talked about. Shrove means feasting, shriving, and that's the Tuesday before Lent starts, the Wednesday, Ash Wednesday. A long tradition in American history. Okay, and we are down to offering. Wade in the water is what we're going to hear. If you have something to share, please do. If you need something, let us know. merciful, mighty, who was and is and evermore shall be. All right, taking the chalice, closing words for seasonal transitions. May you know fully and deeply the blessings of each of your heart's seasons. The inward turning of winter, spring's lush renewal, the effortless, steady growth of summer, and autumn's rich harvest. May your passage from season to season be blessed, eased by hands to hold, and by the light of love to guide you on. Words by Andrew Poccola. Our postlude is Red Robin, which I did see a few this week. Fits right in with what we're talking about, the fire horse. And actually, a lot of the races have been canceled lately because of the weather's been bad. And I also noticed, and I forget which track it is, the water main broke, and so they had to cancel races there. It's just been all kinds of problems, but they've been canceling races right and left. We'll leave a candle lit for those who need our help, our prayers, our concentration. And for Margaret, Lou and Denise, Chaz and Paula, anybody else, Ty, anybody else, Phil, anybody that is not here that we would like for to be here, if you have any comments you'd like to make, please let us know. So that candle stays lit. And that closes our service. Donuts and coffee as usual. And we'll see you next week, hopefully. And I think I'm going to leave the flowers. I got them in water with preservative. Maybe they'll make it through. So.
That's how we get dried flower arrangements.
What's that?
That's how we get dried flower arrangements.
Mine has the petals just fall off. I think, aren't you supposed to put them in a book and smash them down or something?
Oh, yeah. Pressure flowers.
I leave them in the vase either here or at home, and then the petals just fall out all over the table.
I was in southern Louisiana last week, and they're out for a week for Mardi Gras.
They actually took people home to school?
Yes, and every night a different organization has the floats and everything,
Right. Yep.
and they throw those necklaces and things, but they throw stuffed animals and moon pies and candy and all sorts of good things they throw out.
Did you see, it made the news, the one of them with the guy from the beads, had two little black Barbie dolls hanging by the neck from his beads. That made the national news that people were complaining about, and whoever's in control of the Mardi Gras parades had to speak to that, whatever float that was. And you don't know, I don't think it was a noose, so you don't know if it was intentionally meant as a slur or it was just somebody not being aware of what they were doing.
Yeah,
The fact that it was two black Barbies
yeah,
and not a black and a white made it pretty suspicious.
yeah,
So, and you know, those people, they think they have a sense of humor, and they think they're putting things over on people. So I'm just a little suspicious that it was not good intent,
yeah.
but it did make the national news.